Carson City Culture and Tourism Authority Board of Directors meeting. Today is Monday, August 10th, 2026. It is 4 p.m. and we are at the Carson City Community Center Robert Bob Kroll Boardroom. Can I get a roll call?
Andrew Reno.
Here.
Stacy Giomi. Here. Garrett Lupier.
Here.
Matt Dodd.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. If everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, we will open it up to public comment. Hearing none, we will move on to item 5, approval of minutes for July 13th, 2026. Do we have any additions or changes to the minutes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the minutes from July 13th, 2026?
So moved.
Can I, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we will move on to the consent agenda consisting of item 6 and 7. Would any member of the public like anything removed for further discussion? Would any member of the board like either item removed for further discussion? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda is approved. Next, we will move on to item 10, monthly non-action items. Oh, I'm so sorry. Next, we will move on to item 9. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris Kipp.
So we have Carlos on the line to go over the presentation for the 2026 Stetna Pater ride that they did in May. So I'm going to pass it over to him.
Good afternoon, Carlos.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We will now turn it over to you.
Cool, thanks. I'm assuming that there's someone who can flip the slides for me when I ask.
Hi, Carlos. It's Lydia. Yes. Just let me know. I will try to follow along as much as I can.
Great. I won't take too much of your time. Just wanted to, say thanks to everybody for supporting this event. We've been in Carson City for several years now, and it is, so Stetna's Pay Dirt is the largest gravel event, gravel bicycle race that takes place in the state of Nevada. There's another smaller event out in Elko, I believe, much smaller, happens around the same time of year. We bring people from all over the place to come to Carson City, and it's been an amazing host for us. This year, we've expanded on our junior race. We actually let juniors participate in the event for free. And it's been really awesome to be able to support younger riders getting into the sport. This year, we had nearly 100 juniors and family ride entrants participating, which doubled our total ridership that's under the age of 18 from last year. And that really sets the event up for increased future participation. One of the levers that we pull is bringing families in. So if we give a junior rider a free entry, we usually get another paid participant, either a parent, mom, dad, or an older sibling that comes and races the paid portion of the event. And so that helps to subsidize getting juniors into the event. Next slide is just a picture of our originator of Stetna's Pay Dirt. That's Peter Stetna. He's a former professional road cyclist who's raced in the Tour de France, and many other professional road races, have been on television, and as part of his path to retirement, decided to create an event that gave back to the community that supported him when he was developing. And so that's why there's so much emphasis put on the junior race. In the past, we've had a women's only professional race as part of this event. We've shifted that focus to be entirely junior oriented this year. And it's been really cool to see that development. There's still a competitive women's race, and there's still a competitive men's race, and an amateur element to the event as well. So there's kind of something for everyone. Go ahead and jump to the next slide. This is just a photograph of what it looks like when the peloton is leaving the event. This photo is actually from last year. We changed the course up a little bit, but the additional development of trails around the Prison Hill area has created new opportunities for people to come and experience Carson City and all of the great riding that's out there. So it's been really neat to see the trail systems develop over the years, and we've been able to showcase that for a lot of people from out of the area. Next slide just gives a recap of our sponsors, our biggest sponsors. Obviously, Visit Carson City is a big contributor to the success of our event, as is our title sponsor, Canyon, and numerous others that participate in helping make this event a reality. So the next couple of slides, we just talk about some of the numbers. Metrics are important, obviously. Carson City's been supporting this to try and create a draw for cyclists in the area. And we saw a slight increase this year over last year with 400 registered participants in 2026. It's split pretty evenly between Nevada and California, but we have a smattering of other people coming from 32 other states. We keep track of people who no show. And so, there's always a certain number of people who can't make it, even though they registered. Plans change. And so you see some of those numbers here. One thing that we did note this year in our survey is that the party size has increased. So we've got more people bringing their friends, family members. A large part of that obviously has to do with the junior race. And so we're getting a lot more plus ones who are coming to the event. So our total estimated participation grew this year and was factored to be at just under 650 present at the actual event. We have some math that we do with our survey to figure out how many room nights were generated. I'm not sure if I have those numbers in here. They're in a spreadsheet for us, but this is pretty accurate. We use this across all of our events with our survey to get a margin of error that's around 5% to figure out how many estimated room nights were generated of people staying from out of town. Next slide just shows us the breakdown of the different states where participants came from. And then our next slide summarizes some of the things that make this event unique. So the Pine Nut Mountains before Stetina's pay dirt were pretty much untapped. There were a few locals who would go out and ride their bikes in that area. We've been building a relationship with the Bureau of Land Management over the last couple of years. And, we're working towards trying to find a way to even make some improvements to some of the surface out there when we do have the event to try and adjust the grading schedule, which would just further improve the experience that people are having. But it's a beautiful area, and riders get to see the Eastern Sierra with these big sweeping views behind Carson City. So it's a pretty amazing backdrop, and photos from the event are pretty majestic from out there every year. Our juniors race is free, so it's a very low barrier to entry. We've got the free family ride, which is brand new this year, so anybody can come out. They just have to sign up. We make sure that they register, and they can go and ride their bike out in the Indian Hills area. Some beautiful single track out there. And then they can cheer on the professional riders and the elites and the amateurs as they come through later on in the day. I mentioned that this is the only large-scale gravel race in Nevada. The gravel industry right now is booming. There's tons of gravel events, and it's a very popular format. So we've been growing, and we expect to continue to grow. This past year, we had hosted a couple participants that were organizers of some of the largest gravel events in the country, including Mid-South, and their participation was echoed across their social media channels. And so our reach grew significantly, and we expect that's going to have probably a 15 to 20% increase in registration next year as a result of just that participant coming to the event. Next slide. Something that's pretty unique with this event too is we started making silver bars. And that was a little expensive this year, but we stuck to it because silver prices have been increasing dramatically. But because it's the silver state, we felt like it was a nice touch and very well received. Winners who get to stand on the podium actually make away with a 2-ounce silver bar that we hand cast from Silver Shot and stamp. It's a very unique award. Next slide. So the future, not very different from last year in terms of what we do each year. You know, we make minor technical improvements. We listen to what our participants have said about the event, their experience in the area, and we try to add little pieces here and there. One of the things that we did this year is we partnered with the Fox Brewing Company, and we brought a lot of business to that company over the weekend. We hosted some rides earlier in the week this year. We had an event on Thursday and Friday, so you're actually getting participants into town a couple days earlier than we've traditionally done, which has been really great because it lets them settle in. They're obviously spending money at businesses, they're staying more at hotels, and they're frequenting all of the things that there are to do in Carson City. So those types of partnerships are things that will continue to grow as those technical improvements, and that's just going to naturally increase participation. So other than that, you know, things are looking pretty good with the event. The technical aspects of it are great. We don't anticipate big changes to the course. Occasionally we have to make little tweaks here and there in case there are adjustments to roads, but for the most part, it's just a really unique experience. One of the things that we do with this event, which is very different from others and something that people really appreciate, is that you don't have to race the entire thing. You actually ride part of the course, and you get to segments where you'll race for several miles, and then you can stop at the aid stations and the clock stops with you. And so you're not penalized for hanging out at the aid stations and regrouping with your friends and, you know, recovering a little bit before you ride on to the next racing segment. So it's a whole bunch of little races inside of a big ride, and you really get to do two things. You get to experience the landscape and appreciate what you're seeing while also being able to challenge yourself. And that's really hard to do when it's an all-out race, because you just have your head down and you're working super hard the entire time. This format is really special, and it's something that makes Pay Dirt very different from most other events that are out there. The next slide just shows a photo of our juniors podium presentation. It's not champagne, don't worry, it's bubbly apple juice. And they get to participate in all the fun just like the professional athletes do. And then all of my equipment gets really sticky, so we got to wash it all off afterwards. But that's kind of the vibe that the event has. You can see everybody's obviously having a great time. And yeah, we really appreciate Carson City's continued support. The event returns on May 15th of 2027. And yeah, we're very much looking forward to it. And I'll leave it for questions and answers if you guys have anything for me.
Real quick, Carlos, this is Andrew Reno, by the way. I was just curious, is there any challenges that you're having that we can help you with, or?
You know, one of the things that we had a real landmark, I would say, just an amazing opportunity open up for us this year. We had been trying very hard to gain access through Old Clear Creek Road. We made an agreement with the landowners on that road to gain access to Fuji Park without having to travel down Highway 50, which was a huge benefit to the experience people were having. It was a huge benefit to the safety, the overall safety of the event. That's not necessarily something that I think Carson City can do, but I do want to just acknowledge that the community has been enormously supportive of us. And, without that relationship building that we've done over the years, we would have challenges. And so I appreciate that question. I think that, we have turned to Carson City to help us with some of those things in the past. We may in the future again if we decide to modify routes, but the community and the town and the city and the different jurisdictions have all been very welcoming of us. So we appreciate that sentiment.
Well, thank you. And then one more thing, I'm just curious. Right now, a big thing is pre and post tourism. Is there anything we can add to it, like specials maybe that you guys could advertise if we want to do some kind of pre or post event marketing through you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, we can, if it's right around the event, and you're looking to get maybe an extra room night out of some people, we can definitely promote those types of things. It's part of the relationship too, is, we're here to be another megaphone for Visit Carson City to drive tourism. And I know there's a lot of really cool things that are happening around the area that I think are attractive to our participants. So yes, any type of promotional avenues or activities that you want us to promote on behalf of Carson City, whether they're adjacent to the event or at a different time of year, we're happy to do it and promote that to our audience. We can do that through email communications, through social media, word of mouth. In some cases, we do come up there and we do pre-rides of the course, and that happens at a different time of year. And so there's an opportunity to potentially partner with existing events that are happening at a different time of year to bring even more people up there for that pre-ride event. When it's normally just staff trying to get a gauge of the course, we could create some ancillary events around that as well.
Great, thank you. Great answers too. Appreciate that. Does anyone else have any questions? Well, I think that's it. Lydia?
I appreciate everybody's time, and thanks again. We love coming to Carson City. It's a beautiful town, and we've had a great time there, so we hope that we can continue.
Thank you. Appreciate having you. All right, I guess that's next. We will move on to item number 10, monthly non-action items, presentations for discussion only. And with that, I will turn it over to Chris.
So I'm going to do the bullet point version of David Peterson for this. For the executive director update, he did not have any updates other than we're just now starting our fiscal 26 financial audit. So we'll be working on that for a little bit. And then on the transient occupancy tax, item B, he projected these just before he left on his vacation, and he came in pretty close. We've had a few more properties come in since it was posted, so we're going to be even closer than what he predicted for the final budget versus what we actually came in. Right now, he had it predicted as minus 1.16% variance. So if you guys don't have any questions on that, I'll move on to number C, which is Stu, events and sales, and he's out, so I'm going to pretend to be Stu as well. So for the events and sales for August, first one up he's got is Legacy Sports Adult Slow Pitch, which was August 1st through August 2nd. He had 34 teams with 25 players per team up at the Centennial Park. And he said there's increased interest in both the August and the October 26 tournaments, along with increased interest for 27. Combination of local, out-of-state teams, about 50% of the teams were from California. You guys will just have to stop me or I'll just keep whizzing right through this. Okay. The next one, the next one is Legacy Sports, the youth fast pitch it was August 23rd and 24th. Coming up, he says they will have 34 teams for the fast pitch with 25 players per team. Tournament will consist of a combination of local and out-of-state teams. He has 50% on here, but in his notes he has 60%, so I'll check with him to see which one are from California. With 3 fast pitch tournaments this year, Legacy is looking to increase the number of teams participating for the next calendar year. The next one is the Frofect HEMA Women's Tournament, which will be September 4th through the 6th. This one's a premier HEMA women's event featuring tournaments found nowhere else in the world. It's hosted by the Noble Science Academy and organized by a committee of women from the multiple HEMA schools. They're expecting approximately 80 women to compete in this year's tournament. Next one will be the Rockalaka Bang Bang. This will be their 2nd year. And then this is the largest multi-day covert entry convention. Will return to the Nevada State Prison. He says they've got 100 people. I believe that they've already closed the registrations. I think they have all of the participants that they can get this year. 100 hotels rooms for 3 nights in Carson City. 50 people will be at the Carson City gun range for demonstrations, target practice, and helicopter training. That seems like it could be fun. And it says both Recoil and Soldier Systems will be back to cover the Rockalaka Bang Bang convention. And Recoil magazine wrote about the convention last year. And the Soldier System Daily is a premier daily web publication covering the tactical industry. So they're getting some coverage. Next one is the Zelos Pickleball. So September 18th through the 20th. Gabe Galvez is a seasoned pickleball coach, tournament director, and community leader, elevating the sports across northern Nevada. Graduated from Reno High and started pickleball tournaments in the Bay Area. Recently came back to the neighborhood and is probably excited to try out the new pickleball courts. Next one is NAFA Masters World Series, September 25 through 27. This will be a fast pitch. They're going to supporting youth and adults fast pitch softball in U.S. and Canada to help grow the game of softball and support local softball communities. I'm not sure about that fast. Yeah, okay. Holds the world's largest men's fast pitch softball tournament, featuring a division for every level. There's quite a few levels in there. This is their first year back to Carson due to the installation of the new turf. Next year they will have NAFA West Girls Fast Pitch Summer Nationals at Centennial. They'll have 24 teams, 20 people for teams for 3 days in September. Next one is the Bonanza Kennel Club, September 25th through the 27th at Fuji Park. Most participants will travel more than 100 miles to get to this year's dog show and will spend at least 2 or 3 days in Carson City. More than half of the participants in the AKA dog show bring traveling companions with them. For 2026, they're expecting approximately 400 to 500 entries. The majority of out of the state: California, Oregon, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and Nevada. That's a lot of puppies. Any questions for any of those? Sweet. I'm going to hand it over to the pros over here to Eric and Lydia.
Good afternoon. Eric Brooks for the record. We want to first off give a shout out to the Carson City Parks and Rec Department, in particular Curtis Horton and Rick Cooley and their team to help assist with the Mark Twain statue. If you weren't able to make the opening, we had over 100 people. It was really, really great. So we're going to talk about the Mark Twain a little bit more, the Levitt AMP update. Oh, look, it's our mayor, Arts Mayor Lori Bagwell, with Susan Clemens, who is with the nonprofit that helped get this piece to Carson City. And then we'll talk a little bit about what's coming up as well.
Any relation to Samuel Clemens?
Spelled differently, O-N-S instead of E-N-S, so no, unfortunately. But it is quite the interesting fact. And they bought a second piece, so we got a good deal on both of them. They have put one up at the lake where Twain was known to be, and then one down here in front of the Fox where we know that he was at as well. So Carson City, we're welcoming Mark Twain back to his birthplace. Another image there, that's Robert Stewart, who is a Mark Twain expert, author, and writer. So he put together an essay that we were able to publish on the back of the flyers for that day, the unveiling flyers. Had over 100 people in nearly 100-degree weather waiting around. And between the different speakers, which was Chase, who is the artist Gary Lee Price's representative, and the mayor, it was about a 40-minute presentation. Nobody left. They were all waiting to get some free samples of pizza from the Fox Brewery, who generously provided beers, drinks, and food for those 100 people. So this is just one of the many things that we've done over the past 2 years to incorporate Mark Twain and his experiences here in Northern Nevada as part of a tourism initiative. It started off with a mural at the Nevada State Museum, which has seen better days and we hope to be replacing in the next year to two. We also have a penny smash machine at the Visit Carson City office where you can get a commemorative Mark Twain smash penny that has the verbiage birthplace of Mark Twain. A secondary birthplace of Mark Twain mural was added on the south-facing side of the roadway in last year, and the rest of that wall, about 90 feet, will be completed this year by Hisco, who's coming from Australia, to do a 3-panel triptych of pieces of, he's doing a triptych of Roughing It, so 3 passages from his first book will be represented, including Mark Twain getting bucked off of a donkey, which is great. Hisco's incredible. This is really going to be a feather in the cap for Carson City. And we're also working on a commemorative sign, or decorative sign, which will rebrand that block of Fleischman Way as Mark Twain Lane, spelled Layne. So people will be able to get a photo with that sign and the mural. And we're spelling it Layne as a nod to, of course, McAvoy Lane, so he'll have a street named after him finally. The Love It Amp concert series, Visit Carson City has been a sponsor of this for the past 2 years in a larger way. We were instrumental in helping the stage get built. It's been absolutely amazing to have that stage there and then be able to use it around Carson and the entire region. This year featured, as it does every year, a huge array of artists: surf rock, Afro-Brazilian, blues rock, Americana, swing punk. This last Saturday was Dakota Was. And a quick update I'll throw in there with, since we're on the Dakota Was concert, the Walls Project that we talked about, the Walls Project is within the Dust and Wonder Trail. It is the new PBS docuseries that's being filmed by Guerra Productions. So that's happening right now. It started last week. The ribbon cutting is this Friday at 1 p.m. at the Carson Valley Cinemas. Of all the things that they're doing, along with the mural, they're really painting this picture for the documentary. And one of the 3 figures is a cowboy singer. So when Spike McGuire and myself were talking with Oscar and Raphael, you got to come see Dakota Was at the Brewery Arts Center in Carson City. He's from Gardnerville. He's about to blow up. He could be the next Garth Brooks. So they were able to bring the cameras down. Raphael was interviewed with Dakota. They got Raphael up on stage with the tambourine to play a song. So we will have a nice portion of some of the benefits of living in Carson City within the Carson Valley mural for that project. Jelly Bread is this week, and then the Yug Dubliners are always a huge crowd, probably have over 3,000 people for that one, and Mumbo Gumbo will wrap that up. Couple pictures there for you. That's just, if you can't, that picture, if we go back later, that's just 101 tourism. Who wouldn't want to be at a concert like that here in Carson City? Really, really beautiful. Bryce Chisholm is on a retainer for that sky. So what do we have coming up? We have the plein air Carson City. This was a big event that Brewery Arts began to present last year along with Colleen, who originated it. This year, the big change is it's not just for watercolor, it's all mediums. So there'll be 3 cash categories, one for watercolor, one for oil, and acrylic, and then one for all other mediums. Close to $10,000 in prizes overall. Our David McCammett, who is out of Reno, will be doing a workshop. Katie Ann Fox is coming from Jackson Hole, who's an incredible artist and has a little bit of ties up here, has shown at Sierra Arts Foundation in the past. She'll be the judge. And I think this is going to be, in arts and culture, this will be the event that is going to grow and grow and grow until it outgrows Carson City. We're really excited for that. September, we have the last murals and music. So the image on the left there is by Jokin and Laura. They're two Basque artists who will be coming from San Sebastian. They're going to be in the region for almost a month overall. We're working to get them a wall up at Holland Project as well. That will be a community all ages mural that they'll be working on. They'll also be doing a workshop here in Carson City, and they're going to be painting the west-facing wall of where the old theater used to be as part of the Hone building, where Grocery Outlet and the Dollar Tree are, or Dollar Store. Last year, Bill Lewis did the big piece that had the roundabout and the big bluebird and the V&T train. So this is that same building. This will be the immediate wall facing west, and we're working on budget right now to do the immediate east wall, so that whole section up at Long will be completed. So if you're behind Grocery Outlet, there's an assisted living facility. It's on Long, right?
Oh, I'm sorry.
When
Yeah,
Long
yeah.
dead
I'm
ends
thinking
into
of
the freeway.
Theater at the north end of Carson.
Oh,
I
yeah,
got what you're
wrong one,
talking
yeah.
about. Yep.
Used to
Perfect.
be, long time
Yeah.
ago. And they are going to be doing a site-specific mural. I'm sending them reference images right now of historical photos, and they want to do a deep dive into the indigenous communities that were here. While they're here, they'll be visiting Stewart Indian School and having a one-on-one with the Washoe tribe, some members from Washoe tribe, and then doing the final design after they've been here for a couple weeks to really incorporate that it's going to be a local, impactful mural, which is not, it's rare for artists to be able to do that. Usually all the designs come ahead of time. They want to meet people, be part of the community before they do that final design. And then October 15th through the 17th, Mark Twain Days continues. Again, it's going to be pretty much all at Brewery Art Center. The biggest change, there's not going to be a closing party. The last couple of years, we did a ball at the Nevada State Museum. This year, that party is going to be changed into the inaugural Pecan Punch-Off. So it's going to be up to 10 plus bars and restaurants, and it's going to be people's choice to declare the best pecan punch in Nevada. So we're working to have the Big Four, Martin Hotel, The Star, JT's, and Louis in Reno all compete for that, along with smaller bars. It could be a dive bar, it could be a restaurant. Participants with their ticket will be able to sample a small sample of each of those.
Could be
They'll
very
able to-
painful.
It's a love or hate with the old pecan. There'll also be
By the time you get through 10, you should be fine.
yeah. There'll also be a buffet of Basque food. There'll be Basque music and other music. It's going to be a real fun party. And I think tying in really well with that Mark Twain umbrella that we have. So that's some of the fun things we have coming up later in the season. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you.
I guess I better put my mic on. We're on a dais. That they have a pecan drinking contest every year at the Star. I've been going to Elko the last few years and met some friends up there and been teaching some real estate classes and stuff. And this gal was telling me they have a men's and women's competition for how many pecans you can drink in a 24-hour period. And I said, okay, well, what's the record? She goes, for the guys, it's 28. And I said, okay. For the women, what's the record? She said 18. That's a bad week right there.
Yeah, that
That's a
hurts
week-long
thinking about
hangover.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. I can't recover from 2. That's wild. That is wild. That is a fun fact. That's good to know. Yeah, that might be an interesting tie-in, especially with Travel Nevada, since they officially have stamped it the state drink of Nevada. So that'd be really interesting. Got the wheels turning. All right. Well, I will wrap us up today. We've got our normal July insights for PR and our digital growth, but I also wanted to throw in some fiscal year recaps for PR and then also our Datafy visitation report. Don't worry, I will summarize. And if you want more details, we can go into them after. But let's go into the digital growth to start. So July was a really strong start to our fiscal year. So we increased spending by 63%. So you can imagine our month over months are pretty dramatic. However, because we reset the media plan and we're starting to promote more arts and culture content again, now that we're obviously right in the middle of summer, and that really produced some meaningful numbers for us, especially in lodging and in newsletter signups. Our web visits, newsletter signups, and lodging referrals all increased, as we would imagine, but we had particularly strong results from meta efforts. We also improved paid search performance by shifting our vacations and getaway campaign from maximizing clicks to maximizing conversions. These are all those numbers behind that growth. July brought nearly 58,000 website visits and more than 1,000 lodging referrals. Paid media drove over 24,000 of those visits, while Meta delivered a particularly strong efficiency, and paid search remained our biggest driver of lodging referrals as well. On to public relations for July. Before I recap FY26 and go into the goals for this year, I want to just kind of quickly touch on some of the things that we had happen. We had a really incredible feature in Style magazine, which highlighted everything there is to do in Carson City in great detail. It's a really great article. I hope you can get a chance to look at that. We also had multiple television stories around the American Discovery Trail and the 250 Relay. Also, broader America 250 and event coverage, which happened across the Nevada Appeal, Reno Gazette Journal, and AOL. And we will now zoom out into the entirety of FY26 with our PR scorecard. I wanted to just remind you kind of what that is and what that looked like in FY26. It's how we value our PR efforts. Some other companies, and we used to use Cision, if you remember that. Stacey, you might be the only one in the room who remembers Cision. They would do unique visitors per month from the websites that we were featured on, and it was just wildly inflated and really seemed silly after a while, and many people are moving away from that and more towards scorecards like this. So we've implemented this the last couple of years, and we feel like it served us really well. And we had a really solid year for the amount of budget that we had towards PR. Plus, we didn't have a major PR campaign like we have in the last 2 years. We had the Carson City to Canada Quest and a Winter's Charm the last 2 years, and this was the first year that we were really relying on our general Carson City visitation push. So I'll let you read through that terminology if you need that. But as far as evaluating our earned media outcomes for the year, KPS3 met and exceeded all goals for features and mentions, sans the Tier 1 features category. We missed the mark there, but we drastically over-delivered in all other categories, which I see is still a really phenomenal year for how many mentions that we had and how many features that we have. So our Tier 1 media about Carson City was really diverse. It covered Stewart Indian School Cultural Center and Museum, the Carson City to Canada Quest, some of the very tail end of that, outdoor adventures and family road trips. And these stories appeared in Yahoo, Condé Nast Traveler, Outside Magazine, the History Channel, and more. The Carson City to Canada Quest secured national media coverage in addition to the regional coverage around the hikers when they came back into Carson City in the very end of July, or very end of June. And then following the opening night of Carson City Lights, KPS3 quickly drafted and issued a statement monitoring all media and addressed all the queries that came in. Their fast response limited the media coverage to just 2 days, preserving the community trust in Carson City's image, and also in addition to the efforts of the Brewery Arts Center. So though that didn't go as planned, that's just one of those things where we know that we have a great team on board to be able to mitigate situations like that and act quickly. So overall, we had 867 stories earned this year, which is a win in my books. Overall, we had the strongest brand pull coming from arts and culture and from history this year. We also hosted a really broad mix of writers and creators focused on outdoor recreation, history, paranormal, travel, and family-friendly experiences, and that resulted in coverage across national, regional, and niche outlets. These are just some of the highlights of the people that we had hosted this year. Any questions on last year before I dive into FY27? All right. For this year, our budget increases to $70,000 from $12,000. So we have a lot more efforts going into PR to support our new campaign, our priority events, and target markets as well. We are leaning heavily into regional drive markets. Our data across the board is telling us that drive will own this year due to budget restraints, issues with airlines, all the things that we can imagine that we all are thinking already. So we are really leaning into that drive market even more than we ever have. We're also leaning into outdoor and wellness stories while we continue to pursue national coverage tied to each of our brand pillars. One of our biggest takeaways is that the major campaigns continuing to generate value long after they are launching. So our earned media is becoming increasingly important as travelers are using AI to plan trips and discover destinations. So earned media drives 84% of AI citations. So our PR work is more important than it's ever been. 84%. Yeah, KPS3 gave us that stat and it blew my mind as well. So that's that first person point of view, right? It's an article written by a human being, and that's what's being pulled in. And I think it's really pulling in the citations, but it's also, if it's listed as a reference, gives us a lot more merit. And our goal is to better connect PR with our paid and social efforts. So all three of those channels are reinforcing the same story. Our itineraries and our campaigns will feed into the AI algorithms, ensuring that it's working for us and with us. Some of the trends that we're seeing across PR that we're going to leverage are longer stays, shoulder season travel, and outdoor wellness experiences, which are all areas where Carson City is well positioned. And we identified three major opportunities that are coming into this year: the Adventure Center grand opening, the world's largest railroad spike, and then, of course, we have a legislative year, which we always stay on top of. We never know what story is going to come from that. I think the film bill was a great example of that we were able to leverage in Carson City that brought some films here. We're just staying prepared as that happens this year. So our goals for FY27 is we're going to push towards tier 1 national coverage, especially with that larger budget. We have more time to focus on those. With a $12,000 budget, I think we did an incredible job with what we have, but this allows a little bit more time to foster those leads and be able to, what we hope, really hit all those goals for those tier 1 features. Also, while still targeting those regional and niche features that delivered for us so well last year. Any questions on the PR side? All right. I wanted to go through what our visitation looked like for our fiscal year last year. Just a couple of key reminders where the data comes from. So Datify uses anonymized mobile location data to estimate visitor behavior. This is all for visitors who are 50 plus miles away from Carson City that came into Carson City. Commuters are excluded, and these models are estimated from that rather than exact headcounts. So overall, our trips were down fiscal year over fiscal year, but our visitors stayed slightly longer with an average stay of 2.5 days. So about 67% of trips included an overnight stay, and visitors accounted for nearly 32% of track spending. Our visitation remained slightly below prior year across most months, but spending was more mixed, with strong gains in several winter months and in June. Northern California remains our strongest source market, led by Sacramento, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. Sacramento also generated the largest share of visitor spending, while several farther markets showed a higher visitor spend as well. Our visitor profile continues to skew older, with ages 45 to 65 plus representing the largest market, and more than half of travel from one or two person households, and just over half of those have household incomes over $75,000. Visitors are engaging with several parts of the local economy, with growth in shopping, the downtown corridor, lodging, and attractions. Retail and dining captured the largest shares of visitor spending, although leisure and recreation spending did decline a little bit, which we can anticipate with just overall economic trends right now. Again, please ignore the CoStar label. Datify just labels all lodging data as CoStar. This is actually our taxable data that we inputted into Datify, so we're not using the CoStar program. So with that, we have all of our hotel info up to date until March right now. So this is July through March of this year. It shows an average occupancy of about 56%, an average daily rate of roughly $110, and a RevPAR of $62. Occupancy was strongest in July and August, which we see year over year, before we settled close to about 50% when we got into our winter months. Hotel rates and revenue followed the same seasonal pattern, peaking in July and August, and then reaching their low point in January, and then we began to recover again here in March. So hopefully within the next, I would say a few months, we'll be able to have the full year of data from there. And I threw this in here just so you know exactly what those filters look like when we're searching and pulling in all this data. That's it. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. All right. Thank you very much.
So then the next item is item F, future agenda items. Does anybody have anything they want on next month's agenda?
I'd continue to bring this up, but I would love to have a conversation about Nevada Day and what we can do to make that what it can be. First and foremost, I think if we can get that under our purview instead of the board that currently is running it, I think would give us an advantage on how to build that out. But let me throw out just a couple ideas here, how we can make this the biggest event, certainly in Carson City, but I think it could be the biggest event in Northern Nevada, and get more room nights and make it a weekend instead of a 6-hour spectacle with people just drinking for the rest of the night. And there are some learned behaviors that will have to change over time through Nevada Day traditions. I understand that. But right now, it's a Carson City celebration, and we need to flip that. 17 counties, one street. Every county gets a guaranteed parade slot and a hosted booth that's called County Row that sits on the Capitol grounds. Eureka County's pouring coffee, Esmeralda's handing out mining samples, Lincoln County's selling pie. One county gets featured status each year on a rotating basis. A rural band fund, so those bands from Elko, Ely, White Pine, Humboldt, a lot of times can't afford to get on the bus and fuel the rooms. If we could figure out how to get them here, you're going to get 60 kids plus their parents to come here, and that puts people in hotel rooms and has them stay a little bit longer. Moving one of the marquee events or several of the marquee events to Sunday instead of Saturday night. So rock drilling on Sunday morning, beard contest Sunday morning. Now I have to stay on Saturday night to come see that on Sunday or to participate in that. And we could hold annual smaller competitions in Las Vegas for the rock drilling, for the beard contest. And those winners qualify to come up here to participate in the whole state contest. So I think there's a lot that we could do with that. Statehood Eve, Friday night downtown. This is the best untapped asset in Nevada history, is sitting right there in the street names. In 1864, Nevada telegraphed its entire constitution to Washington, making statehood before the election the longest telegram ever sent at the time, and it cost a fortune. We already have Telegraph Square. Stage a Friday evening reenactment on the Capitol grounds. The telegram read aloud, the flag raised, and a torchlight walk down Carson Street to a block party at Telegraph Square that's free, 90 minutes long, live band, maybe a pecan drinking contest, and have some fun with that on that Friday night. Now people need a reason to be in town on Friday evening instead of Saturday morning. So I just think there's a lot of stuff that we could do with Nevada Day that would change you get people to Carson and they go, well, what else do you do here? Music and murals, let's do that. Mark Twain days, let's do that. And it becomes an advertisement for people that we're not getting here already. But it doesn't do us any good or do me any good to throw these ideas up from here if I don't have any say of what that is. So I think the first step would be, how do we get Nevada Day to be CTA's purview?
So are you trying to get us to take it over from the Nevada Day Foundation? Isn't it the Nevada Day Foundation that runs that?
Yes,
So you want us to take control?
I think that would be great.
There you
And,
go.
and that was going to be my comment as well. I think all your ideas, Garrett, are great, but at present, it is put on by a nonprofit foundation, which I believe, and Chris can correct me wrong, is sponsored by CTA.
Yes.
And she's nodding at her head over there, yes. So I'm not sure how, at present, bringing an item before the board would would proceed because the board doesn't really have any input on the nonprofit putting putting Nevada Day together. Now, what we talked about at the very end, the larger question of, who should be putting it on, and I guess that's kind of wrapped up in, how big it should be. That is a different question that can be, you can talk about with, I think talking to David would be a great place to start. And then, or if you wanted to talk with Andrew privately, you can do that as well. But I'm not sure that as it stands, having an item before this board that there would be anything for the board to do with the item.
Yeah, I think it's a much bigger conversation because, I mean, the staff at CTA is already stretched pretty thin, so I think it's a bigger conversation that probably has to be had with David. That would be a good place to start. I mean, it's definitely something
Right.
worth looking into,
And
but I don't like going around David on an issue like this especially when he's not here.
right,
Well, can I add my 2
Yeah,
cents?
yeah, of
I
course.
mean, I think those are all good ideas, and I've always felt like we are underutilizing Nevada Day. I completely agree with Garrett. There's a lot of missed opportunity, whether it be the things he talked about or just sort of a simple Curry Street craft market that isn't even any of that, just a craft market that lines Curry Street, like the Candy Dance or the Rib Fest, where you're only a couple of months from Christmas. Even something like that. But my concern is, as a governmental entity, which we are, quasi-governmental entity, exist at the pleasure of the board. Us talking about taking something over from one of the community nonprofits is, I think it's out of school. I think we have to wait for them to come to us. Doesn't mean we can't do some of the things you're talking about in the background, as Andrew suggested, discussing, alternatives if they decide to not do it anymore. But I don't know that it's our place as a governmental entity, even though our job is to promote tourism and heads and beds, to go to them and say we want to take it over. It's just my 2 cents worth.
Totally get that, understand that. I think the reasoning that you mentioned there, Stacy, is the exact reason why this board should have the purview over it. There's a lot of security issues that come into this whole thing. Last year, they had talked about taking the parade route and moving it from Long Street to Winnie Lane because there's less side streets that come in from a security standpoint. And as a quasi-government board, commission, we would have a little more pull and say of how security and how those plans are going to go without having to change a parade route. So I think that it makes it a safer event. I think that it adds for more public safety to be done well and more efficiently if the purview is here rather than at a nonprofit. And there could be a partnership. It doesn't have to be a takeover. That may be the wrong word for it. There could be a partnership because you're right. Does Eric want to go run Nevada Day? Probably not. He's got enough stuff to go do. But there could be a board
Eric, what do you think?
underneath this board that just sees, that oversees Nevada Day. A
And-
subcommittee. if
and
you
let
will.
me jump in here additionally, because we're talking about future agenda items.
Right.
And we're starting to get a little bit off topic on, how Nevada Day should be run. So
Well, I think a lot of research and discussion has to be had
Yeah,
before we
so-
make it an agenda item.
I was just going to recommend that we table the discussion and have the discussion privately, and then, obviously not with the whole board, but with David, and then we can move on from there.
I agree, but I think it's a discussion worth having, and the research should be done. But I think that needs to be done before we make an agenda item or do any kind of takeovers, for sure. And David does need to be involved, because at the end of the day, it's his staff that it's being thrown in their lap. So I think the discussion should be had. But But I think that's where we start with this. But I'm only one person, so.
Okay, so if there's no others, we're gonna move on to item G, upcoming meetings. The next meeting is scheduled for Monday, September 14th, at 2026 at 4 PM. Yes, back to you.
All right. With that, we will open it back up to any public comment. Do we have any public comments? Sir, back there?
Board comments?
No? No? Okay. Do we have any board comments? Item number 11, which I skipped over.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stacy.
I have a couple of things.
Yes.
Just, I had mentioned this to David, the National Association of Counties has a subcommittee called the Western Interstate Region that has an annual conference. In 2027, it's going to be at the Tahoe Blue Event Center. It was in Hawaii this May. It drew 700 people. And these are county commissioners essentially from the 11 western states. So it's, we won't draw 700 people to Nevada, but there'll be easily 400 people. There is an opportunity for a sponsorship. I don't know if it makes sense or not, but these are people from the states that we typically draw from. So Nevada has 2 representatives on that. One of our representatives is Commissioner Gardner from Gardnerville. The other representative is Ken Tipton, who's a county commissioner from Humboldt County. So each state has 2 depending on the size, 2 to 3 commissioners. So it's a pretty big conference. And I just wanted to mention that to people that it's coming to the Tahoe Blue Event Center. The other thing I wanted to mention is there's the federal government's Office of Management and Budget is a very high level summary I'm giving you because it's an in-depth topic. There's a uniform guidance on how federal grants operate to states and local governments. And there's a very big change proposed that the comment period, the way the federal government works is they issue the notice of change to the guidelines, to the uniform guidance it's called. They have a comment period. That comment period has ended at the end of July. They're now in the rulemaking process and they'll issue the rules and they'll go into effect at the beginning of the federal fiscal year if they all go into effect. But there are some massive changes in the burden administratively that local governments and sub-grantees, so even if we were to get a sub-grant from the state, are going to have to follow. And they're extensive. At the federal level, grants will be overseen not by professional staff, but by political appointees. There'll be one political appointee in every sort of overarching grant area. You know, every federal grant belongs in a department at the federal level. There will be a political appointee in each department whose sole job it is to oversee that grant and the disbursement of that grant. Grants can be terminated at any time and for any reason. So it really will change the landscape of federal money if it goes through, federal money coming to local governments. This is not to even mention there's a couple of other components related to First Amendment protections on speech and effort put in by a governmental entity toward an organization who rents a space, for instance. So if this really wouldn't apply to CTA, but as the city, if we rent a facility to, let's say, a political party A, and we charge them $1,000, we have to offer the same space to political party B, and we have to invest the same level of planning and protection, irrespective of the number of attendees, to both party A and party B. And that would be the same for any, whether they're political party or not, could be anybody who rents anything that does anything that reaches into the realm of First Amendment protection. So there's some pretty onerous, the reporting requirements change considerably. So I just attended a seminar from Nevada, or National Association of Counties, that they had today But particularly, Chris, I think you'll need to, maybe you've heard of this already. There will be more coming out. There's going to have to be. I don't know that it'll go into effect by October 1st. Nevada National Association of Counties has pushed to have it be delayed until December. There's undoubtedly going to be some lawsuits involved just because it's such a drastic change. And it's very hard from a realistic perspective to enter into a contract that you, with a vendor, to just tell them that you can terminate the contract at any time and for any reason. It's going to drive the cost of those contracts up, obviously, because no business is going to want to accept that loss without in my opinion, without front loading the contract so that they don't lose, money. Anyway, it's worth researching. So I wanted to bring it up, particularly in an environment where we often live on grants. So, yeah. That's all I have. Oh, we did, I think you mentioned the grand opening of the pickleball thing. We had a ribbon cutting on, was that yesterday? It was last week. It was Friday. Sorry, it was Friday. It's great to see a pickleball tournament coming in town. I love that. So, and I think I mentioned that we got a fairly significant grant for Mills Park of just under 15 million to do a lot of work in Mills Park. It's going to be a couple of years, but it's going to transform what is already a gem, in my opinion, into a really great space. Even greater. All right, that's it. Thank you.
On that Tahoe Blue Event Center, the Association of County Commissioners, what month is that in? Do you know?
It's May of 27.
It's going to be May of 20.
Yeah, I don't have the exact date. I mean, I could find it, but it's May of 27.
That'd be another good time to do some post and pre-conference tourism type stuff if we do a sponsorship.
Well, I might be able to work something. I think the sponsorships don't come with email addresses, but perhaps something could be worked out.
Yeah, great.
That's what I was thinking. I mean, it's again, it's people who are coming anyway, and if we can, get them to stay an extra couple of days or come in a couple of days ahead of time, maybe. I don't know how to think about it. Maybe hold a pre-conference event that's targeting them somehow.
Yeah. Like that. All right. Next, we will move on to item 12, public comment. Sir, nothing? Okay. All right. With that, we are adjourned.